Buckle up, SEOs. We're coming in for a landing. Wait, no, that's not what I meant. Don't overreact. Don't buckle up. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. It's been a fun year for SEOs. We've got the generative AI predictions for 2024. Roxana Stingu already got one right, rolled out today. Text to image products. What? We've got follows, we've got notes, we've got all sorts of generative AI content workflows. You know it, GPTs. So many cool things happened this week, let alone this entire year. Only a few episodes left. Check it out. Welcome back to the SEO Weekly, where queries are weird, advice is controversial, and everything depends. I'm your host, Garrett Sussman of iPullRank, and every week I cover everything going on in the world of SEO. We're talking Google updates, articles, podcasts, communities, social media, conferences, webinars, you name it, I'm on it. If you are into this, please subscribe to the channel, give us a like, leave us a comment. Let me know what you think about this world of generative AI and all the nuts things that are going on, or all the changes to SEO. I can't wait to hear. There's so much to dive into this week, so let's get to it. So 2023 has been a bumpy ride in the world of SEO, to say the least. So you can imagine how the SEO community sort of freaked out when Danny Sullivan told everybody to buckle up at Brighton SEO last week. That's right. Last week was Brighton SEO. Apparently, huge success for the first time in the US. A bunch of different speakers. Our own Mike King talked about the future of search. Brittany Muller talked about AI. Dana DiTomaso and Brie Anderson were talking about GA4. So many great speeches. And on Friday, Danny Sullivan, search liaison at Google, held a Q&A. And he might have been taken out of context, overestimating this concept of buckle up, but he said that Google has a lot in the works. And so, the community was curious about what that meant, and he did kind of pull it back after the fact. But this week, we're already starting to see some of the major changes that are happening. First off, we had a big announcement earlier in the week about two new key features. The first one is the ability to follow. Now, this is really tied to Google Discover, but basically in the search results for a query that is pretty popular and you see more and more frequently, you're searching all the time, you have the ability to follow it, or you should see the ability to follow it, so that relevant articles will show up both in Discover, and then the next time that you search that same query or something similar, you'll see new articles about that topic appear at the top of the search results. It's part of an initiative that's really about this people-first personalization of search results. That's been happening forever, right? The context window, when you search, what you search for next is related to your previous search. It's all connected. Well, they're continuing to build upon these journeys. In this idea of people-first content, the other big initiative that they're putting in the experiments section in the search labs is this idea of notes, which was kind of proverbially laughed off the stage in the world of SEO. Basically, the idea is for a given article, you can leave a note like on search, on Google search results that other people can see, right? So kind of these annotations where the thought is people would be able to provide insights to the article, but I can't actually see that ever being useful or used properly. I don't want to, knock it before I tried it, to say the least. But when you think about, for instance, local guides, which has been around forever, and the ability to provide notes around local areas, it has some value, but a lot of times SEO spammers and bad actors and just boring submissions kind of proliferate. They're all over the place, and it's not as useful as intended. I think one of the big missing parts of this is the lack of community. You wonder why people go to Reddit and they search for Reddit comments. A lot of it has to be with a community, with people that are all come together that are interested in the same thing. I don't expect Google Notes to last long or to provide that same value, despite the ability for them to show a specific perspective. Speaking of which, one other kind of like subtle bomb that Danny dropped was the fact of a few months ago, they talked about this idea of surfacing hidden gems in search, that not necessarily the big brands are always going to win. Remember AJ Cohn's article from last week about Google Enough, how big brands seem to dominate topics that are outside of their specialty? Well, the idea with hidden gems is that you're going to surface, maybe smaller individual contributors, bloggers, content creators that can surface without having the presence of a massive multi-billion-dollar brand, these hidden gems. Well, apparently that was actually part of the core algorithm update in November. So it's in the wild. What that actually means is hard to say. But in theory, we should start seeing more kind of nuanced, subtle, under the radar, high value quality content being surfaced in queries. It's really exciting. One aspect of this is more perspectives. And in fact, I actually talked about this on a past SEO Weekly episode. Let me talk to past Garrett for a second and hear what he thinks about perspectives. Past Garrett? Basically, it sources experiential content and maybe expertise from videos, short form and long form, forums, social posts, and provides a filtered feed related to a query. Okay, so all of a sudden we're seeing Reddit threads and YouTube videos and TikTok videos showing different perspectives on whatever your query is. Now, it leads to some interesting questions, whether or not it is going to be biased, whose perspectives are the most important. Is this all a popularity contest based on views? It's not completely clear, although Google indicates that it is from popular content. Now, it doesn't show up and triggered for every single query. I personally was curious to see whether or not it would show up for controversial pseudoscience related queries, and what I found was actually pretty interesting. First off, query, is the world flat? Scientifically, it is not. The world is round, and naturally, you don't see perspectives as an option here. How about there was a huge movement around the pseudoscience of crystals? And sorry, I'm not going to necessarily spare anyone's feelings if you do believe that crystals have healing powers, because scientifically, they do not. Perspectives, there's the filter pill there, but you won't see any results, okay? Now we get to see some more less controversial topics. For instance, does Atlantis exist? The continent of Atlantis that Plato referenced. Well, there's never been any scientific proof, but we do have interesting perspectives. Not interesting, I don't know, but perspectives that show up for this type of query. Now, naturally, it does show up for all sorts of, just normal queries. And from an SEO perspective, it really seems to be more of the experience than necessarily any sort of trustworthiness or authoritativeness. It's not only from authoritative sites. It can be any type of YouTuber or TikToker or Reddit threads. Like Reddit could be complete BS. We don't know. That said, it's an interesting new kind of discovery process for search that would be valuable to show up for. Now, remember, it's social, so it's not necessarily for websites. They do indicate that maybe in the future you will see more opinion website perspectives come up, but right now it's really just a lot of those social videos and social shares and forums. So what do you think? Have you seen perspectives? Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think it leads to bias? Do you think it's great for search or problematic? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so obviously past Garrett is a little skeptical and we really don't know. His take is hot. It's flaming hot, but we'll keep an eye on perspectives. Big issue, want to reiterate, is this idea of what perspectives are surfaced, right? What are the perspectives that come to the top? Is it based on your followers, your likes, your popularity, just the relevance to the content, and that's it? I don't know. There's been speculation. Lily Ray pointed out that maybe, and Kevin Indig as well, that maybe this is connected to authors and EAT and trying to connect those signals, but Danny Sullivan actually denied that out of the gate. He says that's different. It's not the same sort of connection. That's not the intention behind these types of mechanisms. So is Google telling the truth? I mean, Danny is pretty honest. He's very transparent, and he doesn't even know everything. Like you'll find out from the DOJ that like user behavior is being used in the rankings. So you got to take everything still with a grain of salt, but don't jump to any conclusions. Let's see what happens. The point is, Google is trying to get everybody to continue to push for first person, personalized, real, authentic content that helps the user, that helps the search intent. So what do you think? Are you excited about these features? Do you think they're cool? Yeah, no? Let me know. So the search generative experience is still an experiment. However, that isn't stopping Google from ramping up some serious e-commerce holiday features like now. Yesterday, they announced some new experiences for the search generative experience, specifically to e-commerce. For instance, if you are looking for gifts, it will recommend gifts based on what you're looking for. Gifts for blank, and bam, bam, bam. Okay. That makes sense. Pretty much expected. I actually assumed it would already do that. But the next feature is really cool. They're actually using text to images for product ideas to find similar products. So in this example, which kind of does blow my mind, I think this is a really smart idea. They have, looking for a jacket, a puffer jacket, and then they say looking for a metallic puffer jacket. It generates some images. You pick one, and then it'll show you products that are similar to that image. That's actually really cool. The most obvious use case is going to be probably for fashion, but I'm sure people are going to come up with other creative things as well. The final feature they released, which is also pretty neat and feels like that social meme with the guy holding up the cutout picture of himself, the one to each, there it is, to each of the graphics, is this idea that it can show you trying on clothing. Virtual, so weird, but it's real, it's here. So the idea of yourself in a specific top or a dress or a hat, I think maybe a hat, probably eventually. But either way, it's, like the augmented reality, the ability to show furniture in your house. Now you can try on clothes. Awesome. Fantastic. I wonder who's going to actually like go and take a picture of themselves and then show them on there, or how much it's AI. I don't understand the mechanics of it yet, but cool features to try out that's in the search generative experience in Search Labs. E-commerce, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. It's coming. It's coming. It's like practically here. Speaking of SGE, one of the great mysteries that still remains is how is Google going to implement ads? Obviously, ads are a major revenue driver, and they can't afford to mess this up. And some people are speculating that maybe they're holding back on SGE or making it smaller because they don't want to mess up ads. Well, Gabe saw an example of sponsored ads in the experiment just for a day, where it showed up as a carousel related, you may like, below the other questions to ask. So it's really interesting that they don't put it front and center at the top. Maybe that's the intention as well eventually, but for them to test it out below first is a better experiment, in my opinion. If you're going to have ads and you can put it below the generative text content, that's better as a user, but that doesn't help Google's bottom line. So we'll see what happens. Keep our eyes peeled for the continued experiments, specifically with ads and SGE going forward. Oh my God, incredible news. Did you hear that Google Search Console is updated the Robots.txt report? Yeah, nobody, maybe some people are excited. We get hyped up about technical SEO up on the SEO Weekly. In fact, our own Michael Glavick of iPullRank wrote a blog post all about everything Robots.txt, links in the description. That said, new report, crawling status, issues like warnings about what is being ignored, the size of the files, the ability to, request a recrawl, all that good stuff. The one really sad part of news is they're actually sunsetting the Robots.txt tester, which is a bummer. An alternative, you got Screaming Frog, you got technicalseo.com by Merkle. Pretty cool. There's some good options out there, but just an FYI in what you want blocked and not blocked by Googlebot, and the ability to report on those Robots.txt. It's an important file. If you mess it up, you could de-index your own site. Don't do that. As SEOs, we love our FAQ and how-to rich results. It's extra real estate on the SERPs to kind of get more people to click and go to our website, providing that super helpful, valuable information. And they took it away from us. They took it away months ago. But wait, maybe it's back. Brodie Clark on Twitter X put up his whole, he thinks they're back. He looked at them. He's seen some FAQ results coming in. Is it going to stick around for a while? Is it going to go away? We know that SEOs abuse the heck out of the structured data FAQ to get them to appear in the rich results, to appear as these FAQs, the little accordions. What's going to happen? I don't know, but it's an opportunity to drive more clicks to your website via organic traffic. So leave them for a minute, Google, maybe, please, thanks. Okay, bye. And now for the 90s nostalgia portion of this episode. Yahoo search is coming back at some point. Why? I don't know, but at SMX, apparently they let us know that Yahoo search is coming back soon. Remember the commercials? Yahoo! Okay, showing my age. I'm old, but Yahoo search, no big deal. Custom GPTs, SEOs have gone nuts, and it is fun to watch. Caitlin Hathaway wrote a post on LinkedIn showcasing two of the ones that she created around Google's quality rater guidelines. Basically, the GPTs allow you to give extended custom instructions, upload PDF files that can be incorporated into that specific GPT and have it focused to execute a set of responsibilities based on the way you configure it. So much potential. So SEOs, think about it. Caitlin made two based on she uploaded the PDF of the quality rater guidelines, a 150-page article that shows everything you need to know on how quality raters, the people Google employs to look at content and evaluate if the algorithms are doing what they're supposed to do. They kind of give clues into how to make your content helpful and useful and what Google's looking for. They're not ranking factors. Anyway, she created two, one for analyzing reviews and one for analyzing your content. Now, there have been a bunch of other really great GPTs that have been built since then. In fact, AIPRM, which is the prompt management tool that's a Chrome extension, goes on top of GPT, has a library of all these custom GPTs, including SEO ones. So there's one from Aleyda, that's helpful content, one from Aleyda that's trained on her learning SEO.io, one by Scott Hendison, that's a GA4 helper, because we all know GA4 is freaking awesome. One by Amanda Jordan, specifically about Schema, focused on schema.org. Super cool. One by Darwin Santos for a web performance engineer. Marie Haynes has built a few. Hers is like which pages are impacted by an algorithm. Super cool. That said, one big caveat, Emilia Georgievsky, previously at WordLift, wrote about how there's actually a security flaw right now. Hopefully they fix it soon, but someone could actually use your GPT and then ask to get access to the files that you uploaded. So it's not 100% secure. That said, Jordi Cor responded on a Twitter thread with some of the specific instructions that he's written to protect your GPT from bad players trying to steal your files. It's not 100%. He keeps iterating on it, but it's a good kind of starting place to put that in the configuration as you build out. They're super easy to make. I made one too using identifying images and semantic relationships to grade and provide recommendations for your SEO. It was like the semantic vision SEO. Badass, right? All that said, GPTs, custom GPTs, were originally allowed to be made by ChatGPT Plus users who pay for the subscription, but they could be shared publicly with everybody. Then OpenAI is like, you can't share them with everybody, only other Plus users. And then to make matters worse, there was so much interest and usage from post-dev day that they actually shut down new subscribers for ChatGPT Plus. I'm sure that'll get remedied and fixed. Right now, there's like a queue to get back in line, but maybe that's just brilliant marketing. I don't know, giving OpenAI the benefit of the doubt of that's their intention. But right now, it is somewhat limited in who can use it. But the concept is really cool. I'm sure they'll continue to build it out. It's hard not to get hyped about it, right? This week, I had a really interesting interview with Kristen Tinsky of Fractal, talking all about the scary potential on AI generative content. We talked the day after Dev Day, and so we were just speculating, but we were going back and forth about what you can and will be able to do with generative AI. She very much cautions that you can't just use a lot of the content right now. It can't just be a prompt and response. The technology is not there. She builds these incredible Python scripts that leverage the Chat GPT or the GPT-4 API to produce really cool iterative content. She goes deep, like comprehensive, uses editing, and it makes sense. Actually, you know what? Let me let her share the way that she thinks about generative AI content.
I think there's still a lot of risk involved for companies who are deciding they want to utilize generative AI in their content creation for whatever purpose. You need to be careful still, because Google is, still the most important thing in this case, right? Like, this is where the organic search traffic comes from. And I think will continue to for quite a while, maybe in different sorts of variations and incarnations. But Google search is still extremely important. You don't want to get on the wrong side of Google. You don't want to be penalized for low quality content. I think what matters to Google ultimately is having the best possible result for any given query, and which typically means the most unique and useful and comprehensive information that you could get. So the way that I think about generative AI and content creation is really around information gain. If you're going to be using generative AI, a single prompt and a single response, even if you're using a 125,000 context window that can give you a 20,000 word article at the end, it's probably not going to be what you need in order to rank consistently well in Google. It's probably not going to give you enough information gain, right? Like real value added to the conversation of whatever the topic is that you're creating content around. So yeah, the guidance really is, if you're going to create content with generative AI, then it needs to be done in a more sophisticated way than just prompt and response. I think it's important to create a system that is using external information as a source of truth, and that the content you're creating is built up iteratively through a number of steps where the generative AIs are refining, researching, aggregating that research, contributing that research to a plan, and then writing the content from the plan, so that you can do something much more sophisticated than like the typical approach, which is just write me an article on X topic, take the topic and publish it.
So you can see the potential, even if we're not there right now. To take it a step further, Ross Simmons did a Whiteboard Friday on the Moz blog, where he talked all about how content is evolving thanks to AI. He showed the content creation process, the old way versus the new way. And he says the same thing. Basically, even if the quality of the content isn't there right now, you need to learn it, because the future state, it will get there. Google is smart. We'll figure it out. Anyway, he gives you kind of process workflow of what to think about and how to think about it and how to use it and incorporate it into your content. And it's a fantastic, you know what? Let me get a clip from him to show how he's thinking about the new way of generative AI.
When we're going through the new workflow, where does it start? It still starts with research, but it's going to be a different type of research. You're going to be able to go to an AI tool and you can say, hey, give me the top 20 keywords that I should be going after if I want to increase my SERP visibility based off of my analytics, which the AI can actually pull data from, and give me a recommendation on the keywords that I should go after. This can happen within minutes now. It's no longer taking a human the time to go through a spreadsheet to pull up Tableau. They can use a tool that's going to analyze this on your behalf. And then from this detail, from this data, you can then start to dive into the SERP. And there's AI tools that will allow you to do that.
There you go. And finally, yesterday, I actually hosted a webinar on the subject with the Director of Content Strategy at iPullRank, Amanda Milligan. It was all about balancing authenticity and efficiency, those best practices for using AI and subject matter experts for content creation. This is the hybrid, right? It's not all AI. It's not all human. There are different use cases and different content types that are appropriate for each. Sometimes you just want thought leadership from a person. Sometimes it's an easy, repetitive task for content creation that can be AI. So we went through a process. We talked through different workflows. You know what? Let's get a clip from that webinar and show you some of the highlights of what we chatted about there that you can use right now.
Just like you mentioned spell check being a tool, AI is like a piece of the creative process, even when we're going mostly AI. Like even if your goal is to be like, I'm going to create this piece of content using almost entirely AI, it's still not the only thing that you're doing, no matter what. At least from our perspective, it's not. So here is like some of the pros and cons, right? So like for SME content, it tends to build more authority and trust because you're tapping into an expert in creating it. Whether they're writing it or reviewing it or whatever it is, you see it all the time now where it's like reviewed by, and then it's like 2 doctors or something. So it's like, we're proving that this was reviewed by somebody who knows what they're talking about, and it's not, you don't have to just take our word for it. And then when you do talk to SMEs, subject matter experts, it almost more inherently provides new and accurate information in a way that hasn't been provided. So kind of alluding back to the value piece, it is more inherent when you're talking to another human being or like trying to get somebody's perspective than AI, which is looking at what's already out there, right? And making sense of what's already out there. But it takes a lot longer to produce and it costs more money to produce, which are very important factors in getting buy-in for doing content in the first place, which is why these two things working together is so critical. And then, you know better than me, Garrett, but for AI content, scaling to me is the biggest value there. And then like you had mentioned, like the components of like doing research, or literally, I don't know if there's a good way to say this that's more eloquent, but I also write fiction, and there is something to be said with having something to start with than a blank page. Blank pages are very intimidating, and I think this goes for a lot of writers. So even if it's just like, AI, just give me like just throw something at me, and then you can react to that. It might be most of the way there, and you're like, hell yes, this is what I was going for. If you have good prompts, and we'll get to that, you could be most of the way there. But even if you're not, it's kind of giving you something to react to and edit and work with. And that is another form of collaboration.
So no matter the way you slice it, whether you think the quality of AI content is there or not, it's getting there. It's going to be there. You should consider it. Watch the rest of those. You got the links in the descriptions. Super interesting. Are you using generative AI content? A lot of people are. We actually covered it in the State of Generative AI report from Q3 that you can see as well, with statistics of what percentage of businesses are actually already adopting it. And it's growing. It's growing. So the last couple of years, we've been doing this 2020 blank predictions for SEO. And you always see these prediction lists, and some people hate them. I personally enjoy them. And we wanted to do something a little different. So we would do boring SEO predictions, like the obvious SEO is dead and voice search and things like that. Well, this year, we actually did it differently. We focused on generative AI because last year, a lot of people were making AI predictions, and there's a theme in the SEO Weekly if you're not familiar. So this year, we had a bunch of great suggestions, a bunch of great predictions, ultimately around the idea of so much AI content, it's going to make so much garbage on the internet, the focus on EAT, how you'll use authenticity to stand out, that there's going to be lawsuits, and ridiculously, for the second year in a row, Roxana Stingu actually predicted something that came true like weeks later. This literally days later. Remember earlier in the episode how I talked about Google doing a text to image in the SERPs for products? Yeah, that was her prediction. That was her prediction, literally word for word. Look, there it is. Read it. Read her prediction. So there's so many fun ones in there. Obviously, totally off the chain, ridiculous AI predictions. In fact, Jess Peck is convinced that Google Plus is coming back, but as Google++. I mean, if Yahoo search is coming back, why not Google+, right? Speaking of Jess Peck, she put together an amazing article all about how transformers actually work. It's very high level. It's not as nitty gritty as it can be, but it still can be confusing. But before we get to Jess's article, Lazarina Stoy shared her incredible presentation, SMXL Milan, recently, where she talked all about beginner-friendly guide to machine learning-enabled automations in organic marketing. It's a mouthful, and it's an epic 148 slide deck, but she breaks it down. It gets technical. You have to be in the mindset, even if you are a beginner. Anyone can access it and understand it, but it does get a little confusing. You have to, have that cup of coffee and sit down, but she breaks down specific use cases of how you can do clustering and topic modeling, how you can look at your entities, basically look at your content and make sure that it is relevant for what you're trying to rank for, and that you don't include content that might not make you a topic authority on specific subjects. She breaks down how machine learning works, how you can use it for everything from like meta tags to entities, as I mentioned. Definitely, she's brilliant. So definitely read through that, and I'm sure she'd help you out if you have any questions. Then Jess talks all about the transformer breakdown, why it works, why it doesn't work. It talks about, the attention model in terms of how transformers can now focus on specific parts, specific words within the prompts, and how it can allow it to do things like understanding entire context of what you're doing, because it's working, it's multitasking in parallel. The technology is a little confusing, but Jess makes it very interesting and somewhat accessible. Check those articles out. They're a little over my pay grade, but I still enjoy reading them despite not being a data analyst, machine learning specialist, engineer, all that jazz. And I think you will too. And one last tidbit in the world of local SEO, Claire Carlisle, BrightLocal, put together a great guide on Google's tickets and activities, and ultimately things to do that pops up in local results. It's ideal for hotels and attractions. If you want to attract people. She provides the step-by-steps on how you can show up and some caveats to take into consideration. So, whether you're offering tickets and there are other like OTA offerings that are third parties that might be discounted, what to consider there, as well as how you should always use your own UTM parameters on the link so you can track where those tickets purchases are coming from. But it's a really helpful article if you're in local SEO from Claire. Definitely check out that BrightLocal article. That is it. Another episode of the SEO Weekly in the books. Next week is the American Thanksgiving, so I'll be taking the week off from the SEO Weekly, but don't worry, there's still great content coming out. In fact, on Wednesday, I will be joined by Bernard Wong of ClearScope to talk all about search intents on the Rankable podcast. It's a really interesting interview to hear what Bernard says. Keep your eyes peeled on iPullRank.com/blog. That's it. So much that happened. There's always like too much to cover. I didn't even talk about Barbados SEO with Martin McDonald and Zach Chahalis and the whole team over there. Aleyda gave a presentation. Her deck was fantastic. Kind of like, different considerations that go against the grain. So check that out. We'll actually have the link in there, but didn't get a chance to get to it. Too many things. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you're into it, please subscribe to the channel, share with someone, spread the good word, create a GPT, send it my way. If you have anything that comes up, let me know. I'm always happy to include it in the SEO Weekly. Once again, my name is Garrett Sussman of iPullRank, and we're coming to the end of 2023. Can you believe it? What a raucous year in the world of SEO with so much more to come. Buckle up.